Welcome everybody back to the Beyond the Red Door podcast. I'm doing an episode by myself. My Dom wasn't able to make it in tonight, but we're still joined by a very exciting guest, Mr. Jeffrey Pingel. Jeff, how are you doing today? You're looking magnificent.
Well, thank you. I'm doing pretty good. Liking the warmer weather, and I'm hoping to get the motorcycle out here tomorrow, actually. So,
ooh, okay, yeah. This what's the general temperature out by you guys right now?
right now, I think the car said 75 when I got home, and tomorrow I think it's supposed to hit the 80s. So
Nice.
It's a good time to get it out.
Yeah, it was a little more humid today because we had random intermittent storms and stuff. I literally got home from work and just started pouring. And I was like, "This sucks! I don't want to get on my car."
Yeah, it was rain, shine, and then I was about to leave for work. It was nice and sunny, and then one of the senior engineers, came over and he started talking about the old days. So he was talking for about half hour, and then it started pouring. So there goes my window. So
the old days. Yeah, no, like I said, the weather. This is my favorite time of the year because it's starting to get to that nice point, and then the weather is just the part that's putting it away. But I mean, I had to see you at a wedding this weekend. Shout out to Max and Haley for the beautiful wedding. But I don't know if you would agree. I thought the weather was fantastic for an outside wedding.
Absolutely stellar wedding. At beautiful venue. The weather was absolutely perfect. And then I mean, not to mention, Max and Haley were just gorgeous. They looked amazing. Everything seemed to flow smoothly. Wonderful wedding.
Yeah, I mean, I've been to a handful of outdoor weddings now, and I feel like every time I've gone to them, the weather has not been our side. It's been too hot, and I've been sweaty and stuff.
Right,
but,
right.
Like I said, this one was perfect. It was mid 60s,
yeah, and minimal breeze and no clouds.
Breeze. Yeah, it was fantastic. So I just wanted to put that in there. Shout out to them. But it was also good to see you in person as well and see a lot of sig ups. I think Max said 33% of the wedding was sig ups, which was crazy.
I think it showed by the end of the night.
Yeah, I think so too. But it was just fun to kind of see everybody. But let's we'll dive into the actual podcast topics here because we're here to talk about you, Jeff. So I think the best place to kind of get started would be let's kind of go back, tell us about how you got involved with SIGUP, how you ended up going to Platteville, and kind of your story from there.
So I guess starting from the beginning, I ended up choosing Platteville because I was in this pre-collegiate program called Upper Bound in high school, and one of the things that they provided for up and coming college students was that free college tours. And one of the first ones I went on was Platteville, and I already kind of knew that I wanted to go into mechanical engineering. That's just kind of what I was good at, was that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And we took a tour there, and I walked around. It was in the middle of winter, so not the best tour, but I was like, you know what? Yep, this is going to be it. This is the one. And that was freshman year of high school. And then
oh wow, that was freshman year, and you decided to stay.
Right.
Oh, geez, okay.
And through the same program, I ended up touring Madison, MSOE, and then Milwaukee, and countless other schools. But those were the main engineering ones, I guess. And they just did not trip my trigger. It was not for me. But very happy with how it ended up. Obviously, so. I think nobody really knows better than you how I ended up getting involved in SIGUP, because you were the VP of recruitment at the time. So I joined marching band, so we ended up going to Platteville 2 weeks early for band camp. And Ryan Moore was also in marching band, and he ended up joining the fraternity, and so he joined the fall of 18. And my interest initially kind of came because I was like, well, if they want someone like him, that might be a good place for me to go, So then I just kind of started talking to him about it, and he started talking to me about it. And eventually my first event that I went to was, it was a dinner with Nina. Oh, what's his last name?
Is it Kennefic?
Yeah, I don't remember. I honestly don't remember. Or Nino.
Nino. Oh, Nino Amato, the professor on campus. Yes.
Yeah, there was a dinner at the house with him, and that was my first event. And that's when
spaghetti. Was that when we did spaghetti at the house?
I think it was something else. I think he made something.
Oh,
It was something
that's what it
weird,
was.
like a weird soup. But so then I ended up getting my turning my bid in. Then I think it was, and so yeah, that's when I joined, and it's been a fun adventure since.
I forgot that it was through Ryan Moore. Like that, we had that whole group that he like. I had to say, Ryan was a monster. Like he was just like had this huge friend group on campus. We were
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
hey, we got into it. Like let's let's like slowly try to get all of them.
You
And
know,
I
the funny
remember
thing is, it was all pretty much marching band that started it though, because like almost all the people that he had recommended or he had pursued, yeah, they were all somewhere or another tied to marching band.
yeah, and like I mean that was a fantastic group of guys. I mean I don't think any of there was like what 3 of you guys that ended up joining from like that group. I think
I
it
think
was like
so.
Ryan, like Nick, right?
Nick Azo.
Yeah,
Yeah, he was a little bit,
there for a little bit.
yeah, a little bit later. Actually, yeah, I think he was the semester after me. I think.
Mhm.
Um,
I do
I
remember
know,
it was
I know,
waiting.
like Avery and them. That whole group. Yeah.
It was fair. I mean, like like I said, like we were. I mean, again, obviously, like they didn't end up joining, but like they were a fun group of guys to hang
Oh
out with.
yeah.
Like, we did it was either ultimate frisbee or something. Like I remember when
Yep.
we did that whole event, it was literally like that entire group and like our small group of sig ups, and it was just like it was such a fun event. You know, obviously we were buttering them up, but regardless, like it was still a good time.
Right. Yeah. They were not afraid to get out of the dorms and just do something, which was nice, and that's kind of why I hung around them.
Yeah. Yeah, so like obviously you kind of joined there. Tell us about like your undergrad kind of experience. Like did you dive feet first into a bunch of stuff? You wait to hold off a little bit? I mean, I know some of the answers, but I want you to talk about it.
I think I dove. I don't want to say feet first into it. I was very conscious about what I wanted to do and how I should kind of reserve my time.
Mhm.
But I knew I had to do something other than just sit around. So I ended up joining the Sportsman's Club because I shot trap for a number of years before college. And I remember the first couple of weeks there. I mean, I didn't have so I had my pile car there, but I ended up carpooling with some of the guys there in the Sportsman's Club to go to Cassville to shoot. And I remember the first couple times, I ended up shooting a couple straight 25s, and they're like, "Oh, like we really like you to come down and shoot with us in Texas." And the only reservation I had was that I had to pay for everything. So I'm like, "Well, I'm not
Ooh.
gonna I'm not gonna shell out $1,000 just to go shoot in Texas, you know." But yeah, I guess that was kind of the first club I joined. Um, I ended up not doing it. I think my junior and senior year due to time constraints for the most part. But then yeah, so I ended up joining SIG up second semester freshman year. I think I was on the recruitment committee for a while. Did some BMS interviews for 2 or 3 summers. I think I might have just helped out on the 3rd summer.
Mhm.
Really, besides SIG up, not too much else. I did marching band all 4 years of college, so that kind of kept me busy during the late summer, early school year. In SIG up, like I said, I was on the recruitment committee for a number of years, and then I ended up being VP of Finance, elected to VP of Finance. Thought it was fun. I didn't. Obviously, the chapter still floats, so I didn't mess up things too bad. But yeah, really, that was kind of the bulk of, I guess, experiences in undergrad. I lived a summer in Platteville, 2 summers in Platteville actually, which was interesting in itself. I remember I was so bored that I ended up buying this just dilapidated moped, and for just pennies, and then I ended up fixing it and registering it in Vermont, and then drove that around for the remainder 2 years that I was there. So that was kind of that was my thing, was the moped.
At least you found something to keep you busy. I mean, Platteville during the summer is dead. Like,
It's dry. Yeah.
was that mostly because of work? Like, I know you were.
Yeah. So I worked at Quick Trip there, and I was already renting. So why would I pack up all my stuff to go home when I was already renting? So I just stuck around.
Makes sense to me. Seems logical. I always remember like whenever we'd like go downtown and then like come like take the quick trip walk to get food when we're like a little buzzed, a little drunk, like walking back, and seeing Pingel there was always a savior. I was just like, oh god.
Yeah, except I was there.
Except you were there, closing late at night, which sucks for you. But I always loved it.
No, it really wasn't that bad. Customer service obviously is not for me, but I made enough to have a good time and save for beer money and stuff like that. So it wasn't too much of a detriment.
I usually feel like that's how all those summer jobs were. Like, I mean, you probably know too. Like, I worked at the Dollar Tree for like 6 months, and
right.
Just to pay rent, and like it was god awful. Like I didn't enjoy the time there, but it made stuff work and had a couple fun moments here and there.
You definitely meet the cream of the crop of Platteville working anywhere, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, you were probably at the most used gas station, and then I'm at the dollar store that everyone comes into. It's just like definitely some interesting folks that would come through. That's for sure.
There are so many stories, not even just there, but like, cause I started in high school at the Clintonville Quick Trip, and the amount of stories that I could tell about the most backwards things. It's no wonder that I chose my profession because of that.
You can just sit at your desk and not have to interact with people anymore.
Exactly. But I definitely got that skill of talking to people that maybe I don't like or care about, or really anything. Just talking to people in general, I think it's a good skill to have.
Oh, for sure.
But other than that, I can't really thank Quick Trip for too much other than the beer money.
Do you get any like discounts and stuff on gas? I feel like that'd be nice too.
We didn't really get any like your typical like employee discounts or whatever, but every year at the end of the year, we would go to a year-end meeting where in the district we would so for Platteville, we would go to Madison or Maquoketa, Iowa, with a bunch of other stores, and the company would kind of relay their projection for the next year. And then at the end of it, we would get this bonus check. And so Quick Trip is famous and notorious for their bonus checks because they give back, I think it's 40% of their profit goes back to coworkers. So it's all scaled on how much you work, but it's usually around 12 to 15% of your yearly earnings. So it was a really awesome chunk of change.
Yeah.
In December, yeah.
Nice.
So that was my employee discount, I guess.
that was what was worth it for working.
Right. And then if you planned on leaving, you planned on leaving after you got the check, because otherwise you didn't get the check.
Smart plans. There you go for anybody.
Right.
Work at Quick Trip.
Now I think the only other person that I can think of is Seth Riley, because I don't know if he still works there, but I know he used to when I was an undergrad.
Really?
Yeah.
He seems like the person I would probably enjoy that job.
Maybe I might talk to him because maybe he doesn't.
We'll have to get him on soon. Okay. I want to circle back to some of the stuff you were talking about during your undergrad time, though. So, like, first off, I think you were really smart in how you took things too, and like I respect, like, obviously from a recruitment aspect, or like we want to get people in right away, but like I also do respect the people that kind of take a moment to get into the right focus and like get themselves centered with college and like understand that experience, because like
right,
I mean, you probably saw it a lot, well maybe less so with like as time went on, but like I felt like during my beginning kind of time we had a lot of guys that we were like constantly recruiting, and then we just ran into that issue where we like got them involved and didn't like let them get settled for college, and then just had a lot of like grade issues, or people that ended up like just stepping away because of that kind of stuff.
Right.
Which obviously we have the programming and stuff in place to kind of help them with that. But obviously want to be like, it'd be better to be more proactive than the reactive.
Right.
But like, I mean, obviously, the chapter's in a much better spot with retention and grade wise and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like you guys, your whole group, like I classify you with that group right after, I had left and like all that stuff, like your guys' e-boards there that all kind of keep putting us on this upward trajectory. But yeah, like I said, I respect people that decide to take that like little break. But let's talk about VP of Finance, because I mean, usually it's during my time, like again, it was one of those positions where it's like nobody wants to do it. It usually falls on somebody, and then they just end up doing it. So like, but when I first started, it was Victor, and then Victor finally was able to convince somebody else to do it. I think it was Jared at one point.
Yep.
And then Jared did it, and then
Chad, I think,
and then Chad, yes,
and then Ryan, then me.
Yep. That's the I think my progression that I can remember. But yeah, it was always like that position that nobody really enjoyed doing, and I feel like from what I heard, like you were somebody that really took it into a good, like a very positive direction in terms of some of the stuff that you were doing with the position. So kind of talk a bit about that. What's your financial background? For why were you interested in it? And
I really don't have any financial background, but I have kind of an eye for seeing two things. So I kind of have an eye for seeing like waste. So like there was obvious waste and savings that we could have and did implement later on. But then the second thing is I have a big thing about wasting people's money. So making sure that it goes where it needs to go, and make sure everyone understands what they're actually getting out of it, because that's that as college students, everyone that's their biggest reservation is it's a cost, sure, but how they see that cost come back is very important to me. Make sure that they understand that.
Well, I think that's a big thing too, because like that was one of the, I mean, again, as like recruitment, when we're recruiting guys, like we pitch all these different things that we're doing events wise and whatnot, and sometimes we'd run into issues where it's like, okay, like people are not necessarily seeing the worth that they're getting out of joining. Like where is that money actually going towards? Like I said, I feel like you were somebody that kind of helped change some of that perception and moved away from some of that. But okay, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Keep going.
No. I think one of the worst parts about that job, not necessarily that it's like a recurring thing, but we had a lot of delinquent accounts from people that either graduated or left the chapter and never paid, which it's just kind of, it's one of those things. Eventually it happens, but unfortunately it happened for a number of years, so there was a lot of pile up. Well, I did end up getting most of them back, and most of the time it was easy as, hey, you have an outstanding balance, can you pay it? And then we just paid it. Sometimes it was a little more challenging than that for people that owed a lot more money that were not going to pay it. But I think that was definitely one of my bigger wins for that. The other bigger one that as far as waste goes, was our composites. So ungodly expensive, and the company was awful to begin with, and then they lock you in a contract.
Give some people some estimates on how expensive this stuff is, because I don't think everybody realizes how expensive it is.
Yeah,
it's constantly going up.
For some reason, the number like 1,300 rings a bell. For our composites, and then they lock you in a 3-year contract, and you're kind of porked if you want to do anything else. Well, luckily, at the end of my term was the end of the contract, so I had done all this research for companies that do composites and do equal to, if not better, work than the garbage company that we were going with. So they ended up making that change, and that's cost savings for something that. It's nice to have. Maybe it's not a necessity, but it is very nice to have that history and a tradition to kind of keep up. So that was another big win, I think, on my end for my cabinet.
Yeah, for sure. Because like that old company, like I recall there being like fuck ups that they had made in terms of like just the actual organization and creation of some of the composites, and we were just like,
Yeah.
we wouldn't get them for like multiple months later. Like, it would be insane.
I think the last one that we got from that company, which maybe it was because we ended up not re-signing with them, but I remember it being delivered to my first college house in the middle of like late summer, which is that's almost a year overdue, which is crazy.
Yeah, like I'm glad that you guys are able to go in a different direction with it, because like you said, like the composites are an important part of our history. It helps us kind of share, that year to year progression, and
right.
Them being so ungodly expensive like that is insane.
And it was just asinine. The charges, because it was like, oh well, we've charged to come here, but then we don't get a discount if other like Greek orgs do it, so we kind of get porked there. And then the per cost per picture was also just obscene.
Mm-hmm. Like, you think it would, like, at some point it would make sense, like, for the university to kind of maybe not necessarily like control that, but like help organize some of that, if it would make sense to just be like, oh, here's like 4 Greek chapters that are going to take pictures on the same day, like.
Right. And I'm sure that if they offered an attractive enough cost to it to just do the entire thing there, I'm pretty sure everybody would get on the same schedule, so that it's always the same time every year.
I know we have a couple of people that are on UGC and IFC and stuff. Maybe they should consider that if they're listening.
Hint.
Hint. But I want to go back to you talking about like the delinquent accounts and stuff, because like, I mean, I'm somebody that just hates like confrontation, so like I would especially like from a money like mindset too, like having somebody reach out, like I can imagine that it can be very annoying, but I feel like with your personality in particular, like that helps, because you are such nice and such friendly, like when you speak, then people have respect for you. So like if I'm getting a message from Pingel and it's like, oh, I owe like $20 or whatever, $100 or something, it's like, okay, like I can respect that, but you can also dial it up and just like hit them with it, like.
Right. Now you're gonna make me blush. You're gonna make my head just.
I know, I gotta inflate it a little bit.
It was definitely really uncomfortable, because first of all, I don't like asking people for money. It was hard enough to run the actual chapter dues schedule and everything, let alone ask people that A, I've never met, or B, like they want nothing to do with anything I have to do with. But it really honestly turned out to be as easy as I think it was Jake Ball said. It was a minuscule amount of money, but it was still an account that I'd like to get cleared. It was like $20 or something. And I had known Jake, but he wasn't in the chapter. I'm like, hey, like you still have a little bit of a balance. He's like, yeah, can I just like Venmo you and you take care of it? I'm like, you got it, man. Like, perfect. That's exactly what I want to hear. And
I just say, like, with guys, like not necessarily specifically to Jake, but like when people leave, like I feel like there's always that or there's the thought that there is still tension there. Some people don't want to reach out when it's like,
right.
These guys were like chill. That's why we recruited them in the first place. So it's like,
yeah, exactly.
It should be just a simple like conversation, like, hey, you just owe, you owe a little bit of money, like, and we'll take care of it.
Going through it all, like there was a few that were like, are you sure that I owe money? And I'm like, okay, chill out for a second. Like I ended up getting the actual like records from when they didn't owe money until they accumulated it and then made a payment, and then they have a little bit of outstanding balance. And they're like, oh, okay, well, I see it clear as day. Like, sure, here's your $100 or whatever. And maybe it's pennies and dimes for a couple people, but it ended up being 10, 13, some odd people. It adds up for the smaller chapter that we are.
Yeah, for sure. I guess I don't know how like the records and stuff are kept, but like, was that like a pain to also go through and like find stuff? Like, because I know like we used to do a lot of stuff on like Excel and like just Google documents, so it's just like backlogged in there, whereas like now we've got some newer systems in place that's a little easier for us to see all that.
How it was actually set up was very smart. So hats off to Tim Nye and Aaron Victor for learning VBA to begin with, and then making me learn VBA to keep up with it. But how it worked is that it was an Excel macro-enabled Excel document, and all of that was all of the data was in there for each semester. So then whenever dues or bills were sent out at the end of the semester, it would save a copy of that into a folder with that semester. So you would have just a running history for each semester or each time you ran the macro. So you have that complete history. And then that macro was then linked to the VP Finance email. So it would email out only the individual members.
Like balance.
Yeah, balance. Trying to think of the word. Itemized balance.
Oh, gotcha.
And what they've paid. So it worked pretty well until like Google started changing some security things with the email, and I'm not sure what it ended up, if it ended up being just completely broken or if it was just a change on the undergrad's part. But I think they ended up changing to MoneyMinder, which is what the ABC uses now. Both work in their own respect. I think at the time though, the spreadsheet worked fine because it was a $0 cost.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing. Is it didn't cost anything.
right. But you have to have the knowledge to upkeep it, which some people don't. Some people don't understand that portion of Excel to begin with, and I didn't. I had to sit down and learn how to code VBA to really get it to work decent.
Well, that's nice that it wasn't necessarily too crazy then to kind of keep track of that stuff. I was gonna bring up the MoneyMinder thing too, because I think we had maybe it was just last year that we kind of started stuff with the AVC end of it with that. So I'm not sure because I think the undergrad started right after us, so we had done it for a little bit, and we were like, oh, this seems nice. Like maybe you guys should implement this as well. Just makes it a little easier on our end too. But cool. Well, do you have anything else you want to talk about in terms of undergrad? I mean, like I said, I think you did a very good job with. You had a reputation for being the finance guy. That was the thing.
Well,
I don't know if it's always a good thing or a bad thing, but
I always told everyone that I have my pleasant demeanor, but I also have a lead pipe in my car, so just tread lightly.
I mean, that's one way to do it.
Yeah. And imagine that all the bills were paid and everything came in on time, so it worked out.
Okay, so let's talk about graduation, deciding to join the AVC and the direction for that. Talk a little bit about that.
So I actually remember it very vividly. So right after I graduated, I don't think anyone really knew I graduated because so usually Baker or someone will reach out to join the AVC and stuff like that. I didn't get that, which I understood. I was the only one to graduate that semester.
I'll tell you what, we were in a weird time where there was a lot of transitioning going on.
Right. So I kind of knew that from being an undergrad. Right. Which that's fine and all. But then so I graduated in the winter. So then when spring banquet came around, then at the following year, I remember Jurgis was like, what is it going to take for me to get you to join the ABC? I'm like, you gotta chill for about a year. I'm like, I gotta get my feet on the ground for my big boy job and living out of college and stuff. You gotta give me a chance to catch up on my own things. And exactly a year later, we're talking at spring banquet. What do you think about doing treasurer role? Yeah, I think I could do it. Okay, and that's that's what it ended up being. So
not too much coaxing then.
Yeah. I told him my plan and I stuck to my plan.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's because I kind of jumped it. Well, no, actually, I did wait a little bit too. But we usually, it's nice to again have that grace period because once you're done, it's oh, I'm an actual adult. You gotta get used to your job. You gotta figure out what your schedule's looking like, all that funky stuff. And so to have a little bit of time to kind of see how things were going. And I think you came in at a good time because we were going through a lot of transition and stuff. So to be able to hop in as we're all kind of getting familiar with what the next kind of direction is gonna go is very nice. So it's very exciting, and obviously you're taking over from Mr. Willie Kunai, who's been ABC treasurer for a very long time.
Huge shoes to fill.
Yeah, he's probably because he was still treasurer when I was an undergrad, so he's at least it's got to be close to 7-8 years that he's been doing this role,
something like that.
Which, I mean, hats off. He did a fantastic job, and he's got his own life things that are going on. So it was a perfect time for him to step away. But we're excited to have you on board now too, and talk a little bit about like obviously you got the treasurer role. So like we've had a couple of exec meetings here now where we're getting ready and geared up for the coming up year. Like talk about just like what are your thoughts about the position? Like what kind of goals or like what are you kind of hoping to accomplish with the position? Kind of go from there.
Yeah, so I guess probably one of my main goals is again, I have that eye for cost reduction, waste reduction kind of thing, and that's kind of something that I'd like to push on everyone in their respective roles is to see how we can operate as lean as possible without compromising quality of the things that we provide. So that's going to be kind of an ongoing. It has to be an ongoing effort to just see where we can not necessarily pinch pennies, but be a little bit more mindful and open to different options as to how we spend our money.
And I think that's so important right now too, because I keep talking about these changes to the AVC. Like one of the big things was, all these different director positions that are running a lot of different things. And this is, I feel like in the past, like usually it's been like the e-board that is in charge of a lot of the money. I guess I would like word it kind of like that. Whereas like, we're giving a little more leadership kind of roles to different people that might not be as familiar with some of that stuff. And so to have somebody that can also be like, hey, like here's some things that you might not have thought about in terms of the financial end of things, because we as an organization and a corporation, like we have only so much money we can play with as well. Like we want to be as mindful as we can about things. Like I said, like that's like the perfect, I think, like attitude and like goal to kind of work towards right now, because we just have a lot of people that are just starting to get involved with some stuff.
And I'm glad you said that, because really what it's all about is empowerment. It has to be all about empowerment. You have to let each of these committee members take that charge to see and identify ways that we can improve anything to begin with, but then in my retrospect, finances, how can we spend less but get more, which that's the name of the game. But it's going to come down to empowering everybody in their roles.
Yeah, for sure. What other kind of like goals do you have for the position? I know we only briefly talked about some exec meetings. As
with any other treasurer, it really should be about fundraising. Figure out how we can more effectively fundraise. I know I kind of in talks with Dawson right now about how we can get more people to go to fundraising events, and the answer to how can we get people to do things is programming. I think how like the whiskey tasting that we had, how that turned out. Why can't we have that somewhere else? And why can't we organize something beforehand where we're fundraising and then we have immediately like this event that everybody wants to go to? Why can't we do that? So that's going to be one of my bigger pushes over the next couple of years to just figure it out.
Yeah, I mean that was I didn't personally go to the event, but I saw the pictures and stuff. Heard it had a really good turnout, and that one was one that was also pretty like cost effective for what it was worth. I mean, it was however many people that we were able to fit in there. Like the cost wasn't too crazy for it.
Right. No, it was packed. We had a lot of people in there.
Yeah, and so like that. I mean, I think you bring up some good stuff there, and that's like the other thing that I think is really nice with the AVC right now is that like. I felt like in the past, like people were kind of sticking to their like own things without a lot of overlap, I would say, or collaboration. And, as you kind of alluded to there already, like there's already a lot of collabing going on between just like all the different positions, because we're trying to figure out, how's the best way we can do this? Because I mean, people probably know like events and stuff haven't been too great on the AVC side in the past. Like we've tried. We put some money towards some stuff last year, tried to plan some stuff, had some stuff reserved, and just weren't, getting the turnout and stuff that we were kind of hoping for. And so, like, to have some new people on board that have different perspectives about things and then try to figure out, how how can we make something happen here and collaborate with a bunch of the different committees and figure out, what's our best approach here, is extremely important. And fundraising is one of those that's, big too, because in the past, we've only really had I think bigger fundraisers, I would say. We've talked about Bratfest among the corporation and how that's looked, and then the Badger parking kind of stuff. And it's okay, well, I don't think we can run as an organization with just one big fundraiser. It's we got to figure out how to do other things as well. And so that's going to be a big thing to tackle.
Right. And honestly, if that's kind of how the cookie crumbles, is that we're only really allowed to have, or only have the ability to find these bigger ones, well, then we should absolutely hammer the amount of people there. They're really, there's a lot of people in a lot of these bigger areas in Madison, Milwaukee. How it comes down to how can we get them there, and it's by organizing something that's enjoyable. Maybe Badger parking is not the most enjoyable thing, but what happens after, maybe,
Yeah, and like I said, I think that's important, and I think too, obviously manpower is a big thing. We're at a point right now where I think we've had one of the largest AVCs that we've had in the past, at least that have signed or paying dues.
Right.
But at the same time, we on some of those other events, we ran into issues where it's just we don't have the manpower, the people that can commit to that. So then it ties in the recruitment aspect, and it's okay, how can we recruit more people so that we can then also have them involved in these fundraising events and other events that we're trying to do. It's all goes together.
Cyclical, yeah. One hand pays the other kind of thing. Yeah, it's definitely going to be a tricky thing to maybe figure out and not necessarily perfect, but at least improve. But I think that we're able. I think we got a good group of folks.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's the nice thing is that we've been, or me and Dawson and a couple others, we've been really hammering for getting younger guys involved as well. That's the big thing, because this is how we connect to the continued generations that are coming out of the chapter and wanting to get them involved. Because not the only people that really, I would say, know me on the undergrad level, really, the undergrads that I work with in terms of the e-board and comms cabinet and stuff like that. And then but everyone knows Pingel right now, so it's if we can get somebody in here that they also know and can identify with, it helps us keep that connection with them as well. So
no, and I think the important thing too is to have that maybe not annoying, but a healthy presence in Platteville too, because I'm still young enough where I'll go there and see people that are still in school, and then meet the new members of the fraternity and connect with them. And then when I go back again for whatever event, they recognize me. Oh, it's Jeff. Oh, how's it going, Pingel? And stuff like that. And I think it's important to have those connections, because once you start losing the old and young connection, then your AVC is going to dwindle. That's just it.
Yeah, definitely. I agree, 100%, 100%. Are you the VP of Finance mentor as well now with your position, or is that still somebody else? I don't know.
I think it's still somebody else. I know for me it was. Oh wow!
Putting you on the spot.
Yeah, I gotta think about this now. Ken was my mentor.
Oh, yeah, I can see that. That makes sense.
Yeah, so he may still be. I guess I'm not sure.
Interesting. I mean, you probably is. I'm on the mentoring cabinet for doing stuff, but I can't remember who's on there and what they're in charge of. It's cool to see you again.
Yeah. No, but honestly, if they had any questions about it, I always tell them if they need anything, just let me know. My phone's always on. I can't say it's always on like a ringer, but it's always on. So
yeah, that's fair. I mean, like you said, you've got that connection with them. I'm sure that with your background with stuff too, I mean, you're probably gonna be. I mean, we have to look over their budget and stuff too. So that's all stuff where it's having our actual treasurer's opinion on that stuff is also important.
Right.
And he'll be in and around. How is getting settled with the AVC stuff going, do you think? Like I said, like obviously it's a big shoes to kind of fill with Kunai being there for so long and to get all situated with all the new stuff we're doing with finance too. Like you feel like it's not too crazy yet?
I don't think from what I can tell right now, and this is my like 1 month in opinion, I don't think it's going to be as demanding as undergrad finance. It's just kind of it's just a different animal. There's a lot of I sat with Jurgis for like an hour going through different accounts and passwords and all these different programs that we're using for different things. But in reality, if I write down what I need to do once a month, I think it'll be fine.
Yeah, I mean, I think so too. Like, I mean, when we tell people like, in recruiting, I'm like, really, it's just like 1 hour or so a month. It's like what you technically need to put in for meetings, and then everything else is just whatever you decide to do. Which, I mean, obviously, I feel like there's maybe a lot less like individual purchases, but like lots of bigger overarching things.
Right. And then with like the capital campaign and stuff, like that's a whole new animal that we're bringing on. So
yeah. So just a lot of like, a bigger picture, like things that you have to play around with.
Right.
So yeah.
And well, that's the name of the game. So it's
yeah,
nothing that I'm too worried about.
Yeah. Do you have any I'm trying to think. Like, do we have? Oh, is Kunai dropping down to the like fundraising chairperson, like the director of fundraising?
I'd have to check back at the documents to see who's up on that.
I was just curious on if you had any thoughts about things that you're looking at, or what are your thoughts on? Yeah, just I guess any new fundraisers. Give some people like a little inkling.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really important to hit the ones that we already have a foot in the door in, and then when we start having that nice healthy base, then we start reaching out for the more obscure things that are maybe a little bit less important, but still a fundraiser nonetheless.
Yeah,
kind of build on the base.
I agree. I think that's a good answer there. All right, do you have anything else you want to talk about? Excuse me, in terms of the AVC?
I don't think so. No, I'm just happy to make a little bit of a difference and maybe hopefully inspire other people to kind of do the same.
Yeah, like I said, I'm sure you are. I feel like you have you just have a good like reputation around you. And, like,
there you go again.
Good lasting impact. I just gotta keep gassing you up. Before we go, let's talk about like where you're at today, your career, all that kind of stuff. Like, so, you alluded engineering is what you're doing. Tell us about that, your path towards that. Anything else there you want to talk about?
Yeah, so actually it's kind of funny. My job now is also kind of because of SIGEP, because Jake Ballstad was a co-op at the company that I'm working at now. And I remember it was like October of 2020, actually October 2020. Jacob Ubel reached out to me and he's like, hey, are you looking for a co-op? I'm like, I could be. Like, what's the scoop, man? And so then I started talking with Ballstad about it, and it's my company now, AmeriQuip. They design and manufacture small tractor attachments like backhoes, grader blades, lawnmowers, kind of thing, for all different OEMs: Caterpillar, John Deere, Ariens. So I started my co-op there in 2021 through August 2021, and it was a pretty good time. It was kind of inconvenient because I was paying rent in Platteville and I was living in Sheboygan, which is
the worst part.
Yeah,
that's the worst part.
Sheboygan South, not the place to be. I'm good. But so apparently they liked me enough. The semester before I graduated, my now boss Tim, he called and he's like, "Hey, you got time to just catch up and chit chat?" Yeah, sure. So we called for probably about 2 hours, just shooting the shit back and forth. And he's like, "Hey, so if you got time in the next couple of weeks, do you want to come up and see the things that have changed with the company and what?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure, I'll come up for a visit." And so I go up there and visit, and just reconnecting with some of the people that I used to work with. And at the end of it, so he's like, "So, you want to work here? And I'm like that, huh? And he's like, yep, just like that. I'm like, sure, yeah. So now I'm a design engineer for Ameriquip, and so far I'm liking it a lot. It's not necessarily in the path that I really chose in college. So I kind of did my mechanical engineering emphasis in thermal fluid systems. That was just kind of my calling. So I'd still like to kind of get into that rather than machine design, but it's a good place to start off with. Kind of get my roots in the ground. So I guess some of the things that I work on right now, for a certain supplier, I'm working on this thing that is I probably can't say that.
Like you're trying to figure out how to say this very secretively. It's like don't leak anything on the episode.
Yeah, this company wants a bigger version of the thing that we already make for them. And it's a very daunting task because this thing is going to be heavier than my car, and it's the biggest prototype that we have made thus far, and it's right. I'm in the middle of it right now, and it's just an absolute beast. But it is coming together. But my past couple projects, so I've done stuff for this company called RC Mowers. They make autonomous lawnmowers. So I was doing a project for them. Can't really go too much into detail other than that. I've done work for John Deere for some backhoe improvements and lawnmower improvements. Our heaviest hitting item was a 6-foot backhoe that we made for Deere that we sold over 10,000 a year. So it was by far one of our most successful products that we made for them. And our company actually got casting of the year because we created the first ever cast ductile iron backhoe bucket, which was first of its kind. So they have the patent on that. So I other than that, that's pretty much what I've been up to as far as that. Living in Fond du Lac now, thankfully in North Fond du Lac, so I'm kind of out of the city. But I have a nice apartment complex, and I have 2 garages, so that's it's nice for the motorcycles and tools, and then everything else. So.
Very nice. I'm curious to ask you this because my friends that are engineers, they always. It's funny when they see stuff that they're working on out in public, they always have to point it out and stuff. Do you do that as well? You're just like, oh, that's something I worked on, and then you go into the specifics on it.
I actually did that not 2 weeks ago. I was coming back from Milwaukee, and I was with a friend, and there's all this construction going north from Milwaukee, and we see this grader blade, this Caterpillar grader blade. And I'm like, hey, I did work on that on my co-op and my full-time job. And they look at me and they're like, okay. And I'm like, yeah, that's it. I'm just I worked on that.
I just gotta point it out. You gotta be proud of the work that you're doing. So it makes sense. I never judged when people did it. I was usually kind of fascinated about it. It was always fun to see the eyes light up, and they're just like, "Oh, let me tell you about that. Give me the specifics." I know when I was living with Yubel, he would do that a lot when we were, because he was doing the what was it, the toilet paper holders, all that kind of stuff. And I was like,
yeah,
when he was working at that company, and I know Chad would kind of do that too when he was working. Well, that was before I guess he was doing engineering, but working at the playgrounds. Yeah, place the middle of the playground stuff.
Burke.
Yes. So that was always just it was always fun. It's fun to listen to. So that's cool. I'm glad that you enjoy your job, and hopefully at some point, I guess because you were talking about it's not necessarily the work that you're doing and the emphasis that you chose. Is there room for you to kind of make that switch within the same company? Do you think at some point, or is it something that's kind of not in the same realm? I guess.
I think it's really going to depend on. So there's a lot of corporate, for lack of a better term, corporate bullshit going on with how we want to structure our company.
That's fair.
And so when we made that 6-foot backhoe, we made so many of them, and we ended up manufacturing the hydraulic cylinders for those because we use so many. It might make sense to make them ourselves. Well, now that John Deere bought that design from us, we no longer manufacture that because it's too popular. Now we don't have as much cylinder inventory or cylinder work, so that's really the only thermofluid system that is in my line of work right now is hydraulics for the most part. But there are certain OEMs that contract us to build or design and build certain vehicles. Aaron's has this vehicle called a Mammoth, where it's a multi-utility snow vehicle that's got hydrostatic transmission, so that's all hydraulic powered. So that's something that like maybe I could get into, but it wouldn't be like my sole job. It'd be that integrated into what I'm doing. So more or less speccing, not necessarily designing that system, but speccing that system to work. So maybe not necessarily from what I can see in the near future, but who knows? Maybe something will come from it. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, that's the engineering stuff. Like, interests me so much. How like you can have like kind of an area that you like specialize, I guess I should say, in, but then like you're so broad covered that it's like, well, I could do all this other stuff too. Like, it's like blows my mind. I mean, I guess like I only did engineering for a little bit as industrial, so not real engineering, but but like, I just kind of like my brain can't wrap around like that. Like, I feel like I would just need to have so much stuff in my head. I'm not that smart for that, but I
don't know if you live and breathe it. Like, it's not. I don't know. There was only a couple times that I found it overwhelming, and usually it's not because of like the project; it's because of the demands that other people have regarding that project. Yeah. That's what gets stressful. Is they want it done perfect and now, and they want it like they want it done their way. Well, you're only gonna pick 2 of those. That's all you're gonna get.
Except you can't always tell them that too. It's like,
right.
Gotta meet the timelines,
Oh my god, it's how Caterpillar no. Like that's kind of the thing.
For sure.
But, no, I don't know. It's nice to have like the background that I have between like my interest and my schooling, because now I get to actually kind of provide a good that people are proud of and proud of making. So really it's I don't know, it's rewarding for the most part until you go into the factory, and then it's no longer rewarding. But
that's the most important part about a job. If you're feeling rewarded and like, at the end of the day you're enjoying it and having fun with it, like, man, can't complain.
I work with this older gentleman. His name's also Jeff. So he and I kind of have a thing, but he's one of our prototype techs, and he's been with the company for 30 some years. And I every now and then we'll get to talking, and he'll say, "Oh, this person's kind of grumpy today." And I'm like, "Yeah, you'll have that." And he's like, "It's kind of weird. You're never grumpy when you come to work." And I'm like, "Jeff, I'm gonna be real. I've only been not happy to come to work twice in the last year and a half. And even then, I was just sick, so it's not like it was anything bad. Like, I just show up and have fun. Like, that's just kind of what I do." And
I mean, I do. Like I said, like you just gotta show up with like a smile and just like, okay, like I'm here for work. Like, I'm gonna get through it. I'm kind of the same way. There's days where I'm like, I don't necessarily want to be here, but I'll put a smile on and get through it.
Make the best of it then.
Yeah,
exactly. Either I'm going to be miserable here at home, or I'm going to be miserable at work. I might as well be working if I'm going to be miserable. It's
exactly. See, that's the Pingel mindset that I.
All right, exactly.
Wow. Okay. So we've kind of covered a lot of different topics. Talked about undergrad, talked about AVC, talked about your actual life. Is there anything else you kind of want to talk about before we head out of here? I mean, floor is yours.
Other than, no, actually, no, nothing.
Well, I mean, like I said, we covered a lot of topics, and I'm very excited to have you on the AVC now and to be able to kind of continue to see what you're doing, because like I mean, when I recruited you into the chapter, like, only got to see you for like just a little bit. Like, it was like
right
year slightly less than a year, and then COVID happened, and then like I
Yep.
was gone doing stuff, and so now I get to also see you. Like I heard all the good things. Now I get to see you and that growth through the AVC and get to be involved.
I'm a big boy now.
Yeah, exactly. You're doing things on your own, which is awesome. You love your job. Like I said, we're excited to get you on board and kind of see what this next direction that you can take our finances.
No, I'm excited and hopeful for the future. I think it's going to be good. You just gotta stick to it.
Yeah, for sure. I agree. Well, if you don't have anything else, I know you have some stuff coming up tonight, so we'll let you get going. Yeah, I mean, it was great chatting with you. I know we got to talk this weekend at Max's wedding as well, but that was also a wedding, so there's just lots of other stuff going on, and dancing, and maybe a little drinking, and
a couple here and there, maybe.
A couple here and there, you know. And
I don't drink. I don't drink.
You get to these Wisconsin open bar weddings, and you know it's just a good time. Everyone's having a good time.
Twist my
arm. But yeah, like I said, it was great to chat with you, and you know
thanks for having me.
We'll have to bring you back on, you know, maybe a year from now when you've had your that 1 year experience with AVC, and we just kind of see, you know, how things went, how you progressed towards those goals, what you're thinking.
It's the budget versus actual kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. You can come on and do the breakdown. Maybe we can pull up our actual budget on here and show everybody. Be very transparent.
No, thanks for having me. It's cool seeing these and like being being able to see like people that I knew a certain way in undergrad, and then I knew when they graduated, and now I get to get a little bit more insight in their lives. So it's cool.
Like I said, I mean, when we started, like that was the whole purpose of it, you know, like get people on to talk about stuff. Like everyone knows some of the like outsider, you know, like the front facing kind of stuff, and to be able to talk about some of the background stuff, and I especially like in terms of, you know, specifically some of the AVC stuff, like being able to be transparent about some of the stuff that we're working on and talk about some of that stuff. Like it's easier than, you know, typing it into our agendas for meetings and like
right
talking about it there when we can have this platform to be like, hey, like, you know, let's be really transparent, have a conversation about what we're trying to do. You know, we don't sugarcoat stuff usually.
Just everybody's got to remember, I keep a lead pipe in my car.
Yeah, so you know that's ABC people. Like if you're not paying the dues, you know,
chop.
Pingel will come find you on his moped or his bicycle or his motorcycle.
Gotta be the moped.
Oh goodness gracious! I could see you like, you know, riding up on the moped with like a lead pipe in your hand, just hit a drive by and fly away.
It was always so funny because I don't remember who said it. I think it might have been Kyle Brown or something. But he would be like walking to class or something, and he's like, you know, I can hear you coming before I see you, because my moped, whoever had it before me did the right thing for all the speed modifications you can to it, and they drilled the exhaust.
Okay.
And it's just louder than hell, and yeah, you'll hear me chugging up Southwest Hill, just all the way up, and then I'm only going 5 miles an hour.
You're pushing it to its limits going up that hill.
I'm like pushing like a skateboard to get up the hill. Oh, but
what a sight that would be.
Come to Fond du Lac, you'll find out.
Yeah, one day we'll head up that way, man. You know. But yeah, like I said, it was great to have you on, and like I said, I'm excited to see where you go from here, and you know, we'll get you back on and let you talk again.
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks, Austin.
Of course. You have a great night, sir.
You too.